In the beginning, fear was a basic, simple emotion for the human animal. We confronted something overwhelming, the imminent threat in the form of wars, plagues, and natural disasters, and we felt fear. As for any animal, this emotion had a protective function. It allowed us to take notice of a danger and retreat in time. For us humans, it served an additional positive purpose. We could remember the source of the threat and protect ourselves better the next time. Civilization depended on this ability to foresee and forestall dangers from the environment. Out of fear, we also developed religion and various belief systems to comfort us. Fear is the oldest and strongest emotion known to man, something deeply inscribed in our nervous system and subconscious. Over time, however, something strange began to happen. The actual terrors that we faced began to lessen in intensity as we gained increasing control over our environment. But instead of our fears lessening as well, they began to multiply in number. We started to worry about our status in society, whether people liked us, or how we fit into the group. We became anxious for our livelihoods, the futures of our family and children, our personal health, and the aging process. Instead of a simple, intense fear of something powerful and real, we developed a kind of generalized anxiety. It was as if the fear, accumulated over thousands of years, would not disappear in the face of the world we currently live in, no matter how small or improbable those fears should be. In the evolution of fear, a decisive moment occurred in the 19th century when people in advertising and journalism discovered that if they framed their stories and appeals with fear, they could capture our attention. It is an emotion we find hard to resist or control, and so they constantly shifted our focus to new possible sources of anxiety. The latest health scare, the new crime wave, a social faux pas we might be committing, and the endless hazards in the environment of which we were not aware. With the increasing sophistication of the media and the visceral quality of the imagery, they have been able to give us the feeling that we are fragile creatures in an environment full of danger, even though we live in a world infinitely safer and more predictable than anything our ancestors knew. With their help, our anxieties have only increased. Fear is not designed for such a purpose. Its function is to stimulate powerful physical responses, allowing an animal to retreat in time. After the event, it is supposed to go away. An animal that cannot let go of its fears once the threat is gone will have a hard time eating or sleeping. We are the animal that cannot get rid of its fears. And when so many of them lay inside of us, these fears tend to color how we view the world. We shift from feeling fear because of some threat to having a fearful attitude towards life. We come to see almost every event in terms of risk. We exaggerate the dangers and our vulnerability. We instantly focus on the adversity that is always possible. We are generally unaware of this phenomenon because we accept it as normal. In terms of prosperity, we have the luxury of fretting over things. But in times of trouble, this fearful attitude becomes particularly pernicious. Such moments are when we need to solve problems, deal with reality, and move forward. But fear is a call to retreat and retrench. I see so often in my consultations people who have a fearful approach to their lives. It's ironic, I think, in a way, that artists tend to be extremely conservative with their approach to the businesses surrounding their artwork, although their artwork may in itself be forward-thinking and progressive. And I think that that's a shame, because if you're going to be successful, a lot of that is going to be on the back of your ability to take aggressive action, to take bold action, and to be deliberate and bold, I suppose is the best word to use there. And people say to me, they don't see the opportunities out there. They say there's no money in music, or, what do you do? There's so many bands out there. There's so much market noise. And I think because of those perceived fears, people approach the reality of the industry in a guarded, sort of retreating manner, where they feel like they're not competent enough to make it, either because they simply don't believe in their own capacity, or because they think that the competition out there is so stiff, or the rewards so little, that they hesitate to take bold action. I believe that the people who will define the new industry will be those who are able to take bold action and who set their lives up so that they can take bold action. That doesn't mean being stupid. It doesn't mean setting yourself up so you have no resources with which to be bold with. I think many artists confuse rashness with boldness. And that can be a fatal mistake when it comes to your creative career. So I think what helps a lot is to think about how you can set up your life so that you can be bold and aggressive in your artwork and in the business surrounding your artwork, while not risking financial suicide. Find a way to become sustainable so that no matter what happens, you're not going to lose your ass, but also leave enough room in there that you can be aggressive in your actions and the verbiage you use and in the artwork you create and the stories you tell. So there's a balance there, right? If you set yourself up so that you're poor, and because of that you lack the financial resources to, firstly, sustain yourself, but then also to invest money into your project, that's no good. But then if you work 70 hours a week, that's no good either, right? Because then while you may have money to devote to your project, you then don't have the time. So I think that it's about striking a balance between your financial sustainability. I've called it being ramen sustainable, where you provide yourself or your family with food and shelter, and then it will be on you if you're going to elevate your lifestyle beyond that, to do that through the business surrounding your artwork. But I think part of that too has to be framed through the lens of opportunity, right? That there is a audience out there that you can grow into. And that requires, one, an open mind, a willingness to not accept the status quo that there is no money or opportunity in creative fields, because there are. Because even, as we make the fastest cars and the fastest computers and the tallest buildings, there will always be room for somebody to play us a piece of music or tell us a good story. Those will always, always, always be in demand. And I choose to look at the future of these creative fields with optimism, because I would rather be optimistic and be wrong than be pessimistic and be right. Because at least if we approach it with optimism, there's a chance. And at least by approaching it with optimism, more of you will be able to manifest that as your reality. Where if we're all pessimistic, the likelihood that any of you would be able to do it is nil. And I fully recognize that not everybody will be able to do the things that I'm saying, right? Some people just aren't, they're either not working hard enough, or they don't have the taste for it, or for whatever reason, their life will not allow for success in a creative field. But I think more people can. And there have been plenty of people, my intuition tells me this, who should have had successful careers in music, but also in the arts in general, who didn't, because they bought into a flawed mindset that caused them to be fearful and to take the quick money and to head down a track of safety rather than freedom. Many people are better served by that, right? So it's, there's no one size fits all solution. But if you feel like you should be creative and that you're an artist and that you would like to make a living through that art, to then get sold safety at the expense of creativity and freedom is injustice, I think. So what I want to encourage you to do, and this is going to be a short one. I have to take my daughter to a doctor appointment in just a couple minutes. But if there was anything that anybody got out of this short episode, is that you need to be fearless in your work, your real work, right? And set your life up so that you can be fearless in your work. Don't be rash. Don't be stupid. Set yourself up so even if you majorly fuck up, you're not out on the street and you are able to provide for the people who depend on you. And that might just be you. It might be a family. And of course, it's situational. What I can say is that from the conventional business side, I've built and ran several sales teams at this point. The people who sell the most are 100% the people who believe that the sales are possible in the first place. If you don't believe that anybody wants to buy, or if you don't believe that there's an opportunity out there for you to make sales, the likelihood that you'll be able to do that is like nil, because it will totally, you'll frame reality through the lens of scarcity, which naturally will repel people and make them less likely to want to support you, because we support people who are bold and who take decisive action and who exemplify qualities that maybe we wish that we had more of, being confidence and, on some level, the willingness to be aggressive in ways that help us further whatever our goals are, and even better if those goals are in the service of others. So, it's a short one today. I do want to answer this question just because I have a couple more minutes. Is there any point in doing albums now as a newer band? I think the answer is yes, if you have a following that will purchase that record. Physical records have a really good ROI. You know, you spend $3 printing a CD, and depending on the track count, you may be able to sell it for $12 to $15. That's a pretty good ROI. But if you're a new band and nobody gives a shit, I think the best solution that I've heard, and this isn't me saying this, but it's me regurgitating something that I've heard elsewhere, that makes sense to me. Start off with an EP, start off with, maybe doing a couple songs to kind of test the waters and see if there's interest. Do an EP of 4 to 5 songs, sell that for as much as you can while still maintaining demand, and then keep releasing songs frequently. I mean, I like the once a month method, just because you're creating more of those events and what I talked about, kind of like content milestones, things to tell a story towards. I like the monthly release model, but throwing an EP in there every once in a while to have something to sell, or throwing an LP in there to have something even bigger to sell, is a good move, especially, like I said, because the ROI is so good. But you just have to make sure that you have the audience there to support it.